guys do.
That's the goal. We're all here together. Exactly. Well, I'm glad you're here joining us. Barak and Liron, I don't know if I see your hands up. I don't know if you're able to show your face, say hello. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. Sorry, all our kids are still awake, so we're trying to manage here.
I'm Barak.
You're both on and impressive.
It's nice to see everyone. Thank you for initiating this workshop or whatever it is.
Yeah, we're excited. Want to just introduce yourselves? Say your names.
I'm Liron, and this is Barak. This is Amalia. And we live in Cupertino. We have 3 kids. We've been married for 10 years, and we are recent additions to the Los Altos Chabad community.
Not so recent anymore. It's been a couple years.
Has it?
Yeah.
Well, we're happy to be a part of this community and to share in these kinds of lessons and classes and such.
Thank you. Thank you. We're happy you're here. Okay, we'll get started. So now that everyone introduced themselves, I'm hoping that, did you want to say something, Mordecai?
Yeah, I did. I didn't get the opportunity to say anything in
Okay.
myself. And I have I notice of all the couples here that it has been the left to the females to introduce the couples. And I wonder how many of you folks, are here because you think that maybe there's a possibility that you could learn something to improve your relationships with your partners.
That's why we're all here, I guess, right?
Is that why you're here?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
I said, I guess that's why we're all here, including Ezzy and I. We're here to share together and be on this journey together, like we said. And so thank you for sharing that. I mean, it's definitely interesting that all the wives introduced their husbands, but maybe there's a takeaway after this hour. We'll have a takeaway from that.
I think the wives slept us here.
Because we're the balabustas.
And we're the speakers for the family.
Of course. Okay, so I'm going to start, and now that everyone feels comfortable, since we all introduced ourselves, hopefully this could be an interactive conversation. So I'm going to start off with the question. I'm going to ask like this. How would you define love? What do you think the definition of love is? I know that's big.
It's a level of care that you give to someone else.
Beautiful. I love that. Thank you. Anyone else?
I think it's a warm, happy feeling.
Thank you.
I wish Steve were in the room, but I'll just say, metaphorically, like giving someone the better piece of cake, even though they might not even know it's the better piece, is love.
Beautiful.
So I have a funny story about love. I loved icing, so I used to leave it for my husband, and he loved cake, so he used to leave it for me. And so we were leaving what we thought the other person wanted, but we really need to give the other person what they want, not what we think that they want.
I love icing and I love cake, so I don't leave anything.
That's great.
Was that understandable?
Yes.
But that was very good.
So you say the level of care that you would give yourself. That's interesting. What if you don't give yourself any
That's not
care?
what I said.
All right. Thank you, guys. So it's interesting, actually, because you all answered, whoever answered so far, beautiful answers. And it's interesting because we live in a time where we're completely consumed by media, right? By media, by social media, by like everyone, sees everyone else's stuff because it's all over the place. And we have become very conditioned to translate things or view things or see things based on what we've seen, what we've read, what we've heard. And we know that the media's understanding or interpretation or showcase of what love is very different than what true love is, and often actually quite the opposite. It's a very narcissistic love, the way that what we see, right? It's like, make me happy, fulfill me, you know, be my knight in charming armor, you know, like just come and fulfill my dreams. And a lot of us, for, you know, different circumstance, we grow up and we're searching for something, you know, we don't feel whole, and we're looking for love, we're looking for validation, we're looking for connection outside of ourselves. And we hope when we talk about love, a lot of times that's what we're referring to. It's like, I love you because you make me feel seen, you make me feel so good, you fulfill me, which is a self-centered love. And it's not the true translation of love, because it feels good and it feels warm and it feels like love, but really what are we saying? I love myself and you help me love me better. So thank you for making me love myself better. So it's self-love. We're also quite damaged by the media because there's a big mush between lust and love. You know, we know what lust is. I mean, every movie and every book pretty much, they're showing us what lust is. And lust is pretty much the same thing also. It's like, I want that instant gratification. I want to feel good. We're growing up in a generation with instant gratification. We want everything at our fingertips. You know, I always laugh about this, that my son, he's older now, but when he was younger, he was fundraising some money for the school, and he called my father-in-law and he asked, oh, could you give $5 for this fundraiser? So my father-in-law said, yeah, of course, sure, I'll send you the money. And then the second he hung up, he ran outside and he opened the mailbox and he's like, where's the $5? He said he's sending the money. Why didn't it come yet? And I'm like, oh my goodness, this is the way our kids are being raised. You know, it's like the second they want something, they expect it to happen. That's thing. I'm like, no, let me introduce you to a concept called slow meal. You're gonna have to be patient. So, you know, that's the difference between lust and love. Like, lust is this instant, and it's, again, self-centered. It's like, I want to feel good. I want you to love me. And love is something very different. And it's unfortunate, actually, because a lot of times people, quote unquote, fall in love when it's really what it is lust. And then when the lust starts dying down, they think they fell out of love and they think something's wrong, when actually the love is just beginning. Because true love is something totally different. And there's some Israelis on this group tonight. So, you know, ahava, right, is the Hebrew word for love. Karen, how would you translate that? You know, what's the root? What does it mean?
Ahav, right?
Yeah, that's the root. But
What's
ahav?
What do you mean?
What
Love.
What does hava mean? Do you know? I don't know if it's like biblical or.
Yeah. So the root is av.
Ahav.
Ahav.
I don't know. So that's
You
the
don't
root.
know? Okay. So apparently, the hava means to give. So I don't know if that's modern Hebrew. Eitan and Danit, do you know? Okay, maybe it's biblical Hebrew.
Have means to bring. Lahavi means to bring. So give. Hava is I don't know, I'm not a grammar person, is the action of bringing to somebody else.
Lavo is to come, lavid is to bring.
Fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to give, to bring. And another word also is ahava. Ahav is nurture, to nurture. So both of these, so this is like the Jewish translation, the Hebrew translation of love is to give, to nurture, to give of oneself to someone else. It's actually quite the opposite. So it's not about how can they fulfill me, how can they see me, how can they make me feel better, but how can I fulfill the other? How can I give of myself? Now, easier said than done, because even if we'll say maybe we rise above the, you know, media level of lust or you know, narcissistic love, we're all on some level, however much work we've done, we all carry some of this, needing love, needing to be seen, feeling that we love someone else when they love us well. So how do we get beyond that? It seems almost like to really, really love well, to really be able to rise above our own needs and really be able to give fully to someone else. It almost seems like angelic, you know, like beyond human. And so we're gonna explore the 10 Commandments tonight, and we're gonna go through each of them, and each of them in their own unique way gives us tips to really be able to understand how to love well. And I wanna say that the 10 Commandments actually was the marriage contract between us and God, between the Jewish people and God, like Mount Sinai, the whole Har Sinai experience, and getting the Torah, getting the 10 Commandments was the beginning of this intimate relationship between us and God. It was the marriage. And so a human relationship is like it's like a reflection of the relationship that we have with God, and everything and God actually created the world and made the world that we're in relationship, that we learn, that we have parents, so we understand what does it mean a child-parent relationship. We have children, so we can understand what does it mean to be a mother, a father, or husband and wife. And this is so we could learn how to have relationships, but on the bigger picture, on a spiritual level, so we could learn and understand when we're here to have a relationship with God. We wouldn't understand how to have a relationship if we don't practice human relationship. So it's all connected.
I just want to add in one more thing. Danit, you mentioned earlier about, this is the time to get ready for Rosh Hashanah. And so we're in the month of Elul. Elul has a lot of acronyms that are connected with relationships. Ani ledodi v'dodi li, which is the Aleph, Lamed, Vav, Lamed. I am to my beloved and my beloved is to me. But an interesting one that I heard earlier this week, which I found to be very fascinating, which is very important, is, and I keep forgetting the word, but it's, the Aleph refers to the Luchot, probably connected with Anochi, the Shibre Luchot. So Aleph is the Luchot, Vav is V'Shivrei.
Say it in English.
The Aleph is it's in reference to the tablets and the broken tablets. So it's an interesting thing, and what are we referring to? In the Aron, in the Ark, in the temple, they included there was both the Luchot and the broken Luchot. The temple, the tablets and the broken tablets. So why keep the broken tablets? What benefit do the broken tablets have? And something interesting is that when we enter into a marriage, and the Luchot were like the marriage contract between us and God, when we enter into a marriage, we go with a mindset, with a certain perspective of what our marriage is. But then we have to have that opportunity for the tablets to break. And then we rebuild our relationship in a healthier, more meaningful way. And so some of us are married, just looking around, some of us are married 5 years, some 10 years, some 15 years, really just depending on where each of us are in our lives. And we have to remember that one piece I forgot is that it's not just you don't just have the whole tablets. The whole tablets are only complete when you have the broken tablets. So a marriage is all about the struggle and then reaching the completion together. So I found that piece to be very fascinating. Is here we are, we're entering into a new year. We have the past, which is behind us, and the past is informing us where we are, and now we're going to move forward in a new built relationship, and that's going to happen every single year as we move on, because the past becomes the broken, and the future becomes the new whole, and the new complete.
Thank you. So I'm gonna start with the first commandment, and then I'm gonna ask if anyone wants to add or share examples or whatever, so it could be group effort. So the first commandment is, I'm the Lord your God who took you out of Egypt and from the house of slaves. So a big question always is, why would that be the first commandment? It sounds so morbid almost. It's like, if God is establishing his greatness and his love for us, and and we're renewal, and it's about this connection, why is he reminding us that we were in Egypt, that we were slaves, and like, why are we focusing on the past? Why don't we move forward? And it sounds like this, like bondage, like, oh, I took you out of Egypt, so you owe me or something. It's just like, it seems very interesting. So in connection to our relationship, one thing that, and bringing this down to a human relationship, one thing that comes up a lot of times, we say, you know, we got married and the past is the past, and don't mention the past. I don't want to mention the past. We're moving forward. And we don't want to really, you know, focus on everything that happened in the past. But the reality is that the people that we love most and the people that we're most intimate with and we care about the most oftentimes trigger us the most, right? It's just the reality. You know, people who we don't care about too much, or we're not, you know, we're not invested in, they might say something that's a little hurtful or a little annoying or a little frustrating, and we'll just, I mean, maybe it will bother us, maybe it won't, but oftentimes we're not so connected, so it doesn't bother us that much. But when it comes to people like our own siblings or our own parents or our own spouse, oftentimes it hurts us the most. Now, it's human nature when someone hurts us or irks us or frustrates us to want to change the other person, right? And to be like, okay, every time you do this, every time you say this, you're hurting my feelings, you're bothering me, you're triggering me, you're upsetting me. So you have to change. You have to stop talking this way. You have to stop doing this. And we'll get like, either we'll get really controlling and we'll try to get the other person to stop, or we'll get very angry and we'll blow up and we could get aggressive and don't talk to me that way. It's so hurtful. And this first commandment it's hinting to us in our relationship. And it's so important that God is saying, you come from Egypt. What is that saying? That we all have our baggage. We have a past, we have a history. And all of us do, no matter who we are, no matter how we grew up, where we grew up, we all have our baggage, our wounds, our hurts in our life. And the way Hashem set up the world to be, the way God made it, is that life is all about healing and growing and getting beyond our limitations, or beyond our hurts, beyond the things that hurt us, to be able to be free from it, not to like carry it, you know, like the heavy rocks our whole life and be bound by it, but to be free. And how do we get free from it? It's ironic, but it's actually when we get triggered or when we get hurt in the same similar way, then it reminds us of the past. And it's not to punish us, but it's actually to bring it up, to expose it. So it comes in, instead of burying it and not being aware of it and being in denial of it, it gets exposed, it comes out. And we're like, oh, this is hurting me. And it's like reminding me of something. And then if you look inside and you notice like, oh, this is exactly the way my mom spoke to me, or exactly, you know, my older sibling spoke to me, or it's like bringing up all this pain in me, then you could notice it and acknowledge it. And as an adult now, you could understand and have that perspective, and you can really notice it and move on from it and be free and not have to be subconsciously being pushed down by it or like holding on to it. So here's the thing, this is the point, that we think that when someone does something to hurt us, we have to get them to change. That's how most people are. You're hurting me, you get to me to change. But the Jewish approach, and actually the healing approach, is when someone does something, and again, we're talking about marriage. So when our spouse does something or says something or acts in a way that really hurts us and brings up uncomfortable feelings, the solution, instead of going to them, is to go inwards and to own it for yourself and say, if it's bothering me this much that I feel like I want to, you know, I feel like I'm going to blow up, or I'm so angry, or I feel like I need to change my spouse, then obviously something big is coming up for me. Because if it was a small reaction, then it wouldn't be a big deal. But if it's such a big reaction, then I need to go take care of my feelings, because I have baggage. And this is obviously bringing up old stuff in me. And so
I just want to add, it doesn't mean that you allow yourself to get stepped on and say everything is your fault. What it means is that you enter it, you approach it with the mindset of what is coming up for me, and I'm going to ask. I'm not going to control and change the other person. I'm going to look inward first.
The other person has to understand what it is themselves, that what points it's touching within them, Why haven't they dealt with it before? Why haven't they dealt with it together? I can't imagine in a relationship that anything like this happens just for the very first time after a relationship is a certain age. You've got to hear one another, you've got to ask, and you've got to tease it apart and see what's there.
100%. And the thing is though, and it's true, but oftentimes people can be married for many, many years and they get into these old ruts or these old habits or cycles where, you know, one triggers the other person and then it brings up a lot of emotions, and then, you know, they get into these set patterns. And
when you get to our age, you don't hear it anymore.
You don't remember, so it can't be a pattern.
That's really convenient. Well, maybe after the last 10 minutes, you guys can give us your marriage tips at your agency.
One tip is, you know the guy's going to have some baggage. So just make sure his baggage is a matched set of luggage with yours.
That's great.
I bought the new hard shell luggage. You know.
That's awesome. But yeah, so just I think the main point is that, like you're saying, you know, look in each other's hearts, right, and see what's there, and listen to each other and be available for each other. But the first step is communication is key. But the first thing is, like, you only have healthy communication when you first own your own stuff, and you realize that you like, as you said, you know, of course you need to communicate, but if you're emotional or you're upset or you feel like you're angry or you want to control the other person, it's not the right time yet. The first thing is to go and spend some time with yourself and be a detective and say, why am I so angry? Why am I so upset? Why am I so hurt? Why does this keep coming up for me? And not only could you assume, 100% guarantee, if it's very, very, very upsetting for you deeply, then it's coming up to heal something from your childhood. And it's yours to own. And once you do the work, then you can communicate because you owned your stuff and you work through your own thing, and then you come back. So this is the first commandment. Anyone else have anything to add or ask or share on that before we move forward?
Can you just reread it again?
Yeah, I don't know the exact words, but it's basically, I'm the Lord your God who took you out of Egypt. Basically, who took you out of Egypt. So the question is, like, why is God reminding them of their past?
He took you out of Egypt and the house of slaves.
So this is the thing about, like, that we each have our past, and in order to have a healthy relationship, we each need to own our own stuff, and not to engage when we're feeling really upset or really triggered, and to first look inside and see what's coming up for us and heal our own stuff. Now, if we had 10 hours, I could go for the next 2 hours of what are the steps to take when you're triggered and feeling hurt, to listen to yourself and know what's coming up for you. And we could do a class on that. I could do 10 classes on that. It's another one of my favorite subjects, but we're gonna have to, this is just a class teaser, and then we could have many more going deeper in each of these topics. So any other questions or comments on this first commandment?
I just have one comment. It seems to me from the interpretation, it's a very forward thinking too. Like, your past is there, but look more forward, not backward, and don't let it drag you down. Is that?
Yeah.
So yes, it's forward thinking, but the fact that it mentions who took you out of Egypt is important, because we have to always remember that our past informs who we are. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, there's my sister-in-law is now a positive coach. I think if you Google her, you'll find her. And she does and she's doing, I forgot the specific type of program that she's using. And we had a discussion on that approach is forward thinking. The approach of therapeutic study that I have been studying is looking a lot deeper into your past. And we realize that it's really a balance between the two, is that you have to allow your past to inform you, and you have to look at your past. You have to know that you came from Egypt, but you can't get stuck in your past. You know, I am the Lord your God who took you out of Egypt. I'm not the Lord your God who was with you in Egypt. Yes, he's the same God. We have to remember that we were taken out of Egypt so that we can go forward to the getting of the Torah and getting into the land of Israel.
Yeah, and what I just want to say, I think the balance is that, you know, we shouldn't be like a victim. Our goal is to get out of victimhood and like, oh, poor me, and I went through this and I suffered this and I experienced this, and therefore X, Y, and Z, and I have all the excuses in the world why I can't do this and why I don't want to do this and why I'm miserable. You know, that's not the goal. The goal, I mean, really is to be really present and grateful and have the gratitude. But when do we know that we have to look back is in those moments when we're experiencing intense pain or intense hurt from someone else. That's an opportunity, and it's a sign that there's something that needs to be looked back to link to the connection that you're experiencing something so intense right now. And it's not there to punish you or to hurt you, but it's there to heal you so that you don't have to hold on to that anymore. So it's only looking back for the purpose of growth, not to stay stuck or to stay a victim or to even feel bad for ourselves.
Okay. So I'm going to share on the second commandment. I don't know what Nechama was talking about, that everybody has a past, because my past was perfect, no issues. So I don't know. Anyway, the second commandment is don't have any other gods besides me. Lo yeh lecha elokim acharim al panai. You should not have any other gods opposite me. So what is that all about? And that's really all about comparison. There's God and other gods opposite God. And why is God telling us, you know, God's not a jealous person, or God doesn't have jealousy. So why is God telling us we shouldn't have any other gods besides him? So when we think about it, comparison is the biggest evil that exists. You know, the example I always use is, you know, it's the Facebook effect. For those of us who have Facebook, and I have Facebook really primarily for Chabad purposes and friendship circle purposes, I don't like it because Facebook is all about seeing everybody else. What did this person have for breakfast? Where did this person go on vacation? What is this person all about? And we're always comparing our existence based on the other people. So we got likes. How come I didn't get so many likes on my post? This person got 50 likes. Oh, this person's an influencer. I'm a loser because I'm not an influencer. You know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So comparison is really all about putting someone else or something else as the new God. And I found that in my own life, as I spent years looking at other people and comparing myself to other people, and before I get to marriage, I'm just talking in general, my existence became less and less and less because I was always evaluating myself. And so I never had my own existence. I had somebody else's existence, and I only measured up based on the other person. In our relationships, we have that same challenge. As long as we're looking at other couples and we're saying, well, look at how they're doing. And it actually reminds me of a funny story, and I'll share it in a second. You know, if we look at how they're doing and how their relationship is, then our relationship is never complete. We never have our own thing. So as long as we're comparing, we are essentially putting others as God in front of us. And as long as we compare, we never have our completion, because the two of us need to be complete in our own regards. With God being our only God, and with each other, and my wife being my God, and hopefully me being her assistant. But the funny story I just remember is years ago, Nechama and I, we went to Half Moon Bay, and we stopped at the, you know, somebody said, you got to check out the Ritz-Carlton there. So we checked out the Ritz-Carlton. We're standing there in the lobby, and we see this couple from a distance. And I remember saying to Nechama, look at them. They look like the perfect couple. You know, he was dressed in, you know, to the nines. She was dressed perfectly. The kids looked beautiful, everything. And they were at a distance. And as they got closer, I don't remember exactly, but we heard their conversation, and they, the coat looked shabby. They didn't look fully put together, and we realized that as long as we're, I'm looking at them and saying they're the perfect couple. They're perfect as long as we don't know them. But once we get to know them, their perfection disappears. And it's like that in everything in life. As long as there's perfection from what you don't see, as long as you see perfection and you don't realize that it's what you don't see, you're going to be dragged down. If you remember that everything else, other gods are just inferior to God, then you have perfection right where you are, and together you're able to grow to your own perfection.
I just want to add to that I guess take that a little deeper also, is that even not only is that who we have is exactly perfect for us, but even the challenges that we have in our relationship is exactly what we need for our soul's growth. So if life is about, we're here to have happy ever after and we're on vacation, we came to Earth to have vacation and eat delicious ice cream and, have instant gratification and just have all the earthly pleasures, and everything should just be like, everyone should just wait on our needs, then marriage will be highly disappointing, and raising children after the honeymoon stage, by the time they get 2.5, it's, what were we thinking to have children, like everything. So it's even deeper than that. It's like to know that whatever the personality of your soulmate is, the person that you're married to is, even with their limitations, even with the things that you think that you need them to be for you or provide for you and they're not, is exactly what your soul needs for your soul's growth. Because of course we're not here on a vacation. We're here to grow. We're here to grow our soul. We're here to become better people. We're here to fine tune ourselves and polish our coarseness or our harshness or our limitations, and get down to our soul and become the best us that we can. And that takes a lot of work, and it's exactly our spouse, whatever, even what they're not providing for us is meant to be. And I'll just give an example. I know someone who's highly, highly sensitive, highly emotional, and she always grew up saying, nobody gets me, I'm so emotional, and everyone always thinks I'm too emotional, and I'm only gonna marry someone who totally gets me and validates me and gives me the space to be as emotional as I want. And then she ended up marrying someone, and turns out he's like complete opposite. He jokes off everything, and every time she's having a hard time and crying, he just makes jokes and just like, he's like, move on, get a drink and just move on, he's silly. And at first it was so hard. She's like, I can't believe it. Here I married someone and he's the same, like everyone else, telling me I'm too much and not giving me that space. But after a few years of, trying first to change him and thinking, oh my gosh, what if I married the wrong person and no one's ever gonna get me? She realized that it was the biggest gift, because first of all, she said now she's so intense and so emotional. She realizes it's the best thing to marry someone who's more like silly and jokey and more relaxed, because it brings humor into the relationship and it helps her lighten herself, because she has the time with herself, but when she's with him, it gives her an opportunity to get beyond that. But she said also than that, she said if he would have been that for her, she would have continued her whole life thinking that her answers are outside of her. My husband needs to give me the validation that I'm good enough. And my friend has to tell me that it's okay for me to be highly sensitive and emotional, and this person, that person. But she said when she wasn't even getting it from her own spouse, she realized it forced her to dig deep and to realize, you know what? This is the way God made me, and I'm perfect the way God wants me to be. I can't change this. This is who I am, and I'm lovable no matter what. And it gave her the opportunity to dig deep and really soul search for her own, to be her own inner, like to give herself the love and validation, accept herself no matter what, which is a higher level. So it took more soul searching and more work. And this is the same thing with all of us. We, instead of like, if we have this perspective, instead of saying like, I can't believe my, this, he doesn't give me this, and he's not this, and he has this issue and that issue. It's so helpful to change our glasses and our perspective and to say, this is my soulmate. This is who obviously God feels is I need to become the best person I can and to grow my soul. So if he is this and this and that, how is that beneficial for me? How can it help me grow? Because if we're growing, then we can see the answers and we can see the reasons. So it's just a matter of really that perspective change.
Well, the perfection that you need today is going to be quite different than the perfection you're going to need in the tomorrows to come. Your needs change, your perceptions change, and your mate's abilities to make changes also change. So you're dealing with a very moving universe at all times. So I think that what you have to do is get the word perfection out of your brain, out of your heart, and out of your marriage, and have acceptance for what is and how what is can grow.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, and the other thing, you know, it's very easy to have a long list of all the things that our spouse is not perfect yet at. But you know what? The truth is, we have just as long of a list. So it's much easier to change ourselves than to change someone else, because when you try to change someone else, you have to deal with begging them to change and then dealing with their, you know, frustrated us that we're trying to get them to change, and then maybe they'll change. But you know what? We have so much work for ourselves. Let's first make sure we get through our whole list of things that we need to work on. And then maybe when we're done our list and we become perfect, then we could start, you know, working on the next person. But
there's a saying that I like that goes along with that, is that I can't control what another person says or what another person does, but I can control how I respond or react to it.
And how it makes you
Exactly.
feel, and how it makes you feel.
I can control it all.
yeah, exactly. And I know I'm going on and on, but I think this is really important, because what you just said made me think about this. Like, for example, what I'm talking about, the soul growth. Let's say someone has a really hard time with boundaries, right? And, you know, when someone talks really harshly to them or aggressive or, you know, demands of them, and let's say they're used to that and they've never learned how to set boundaries and say, no, this is, I'm not willing to do this, or this is too hard for me, or I don't feel, I'm not okay with talking to you when you talk to me this way, right? Like sticking up for themselves and setting boundaries. Oftentimes, it's literally the way it is. Like, you know, and again, the way I see it is the way God orchestrates it, is that oftentimes our spouse will act in a certain way or talk to us in a certain way, exactly the way, just to get us to learn how to set boundaries and how to look inside ourselves and be like, this is what I'm okay with, this I'm not. Learn how to communicate, learn how to stand up for ourselves, learn how to, in a compassionate way, set boundaries. And once we do that, we heal that in ourselves. That's what makes the transformation, because we changed it within ourselves and we learned the lesson. So exactly what we're experiencing is exactly what's meant to happen and what we need at that point in our life.
I think it's really important to start with a positive. When your spouse is saying something that you feel is harsh or stepping over boundaries, just not to just go within yourself to find the strength, but to help your mate change too, by saying, I really want to hear what you have to say. It's difficult for me when it comes out X, Y, and Z because of what's inside my past. And therefore you keep the communication open, you both grow.
Absolutely, 100%. And sometimes, and I agree with you, and what you're saying is already very developed, you know? So you're like at the other end already.
The end of our lives.
Yes, and what you're saying, you're already at a developed stage of communication. And the thing is that until we learn how to know what's going on inside of us and what we're emotionally experiencing, it's very hard to communicate effectively. So sometimes we need to take a step back and to be like, what's coming up for me? Or is there a boundary that I need to make? Is there something, you know, that I need to ask for? Is there something that I'm experiencing And then when we communicate that, then we could communicate with compassion and ask for our needs. But 100%, I completely agree with you. Okay. Yeah. Does anyone else want to say something before we go on to the next one? You're all following? Okay.
Right. Third commandment.
Oh.
Yeah.
So the third commandment is do not say God's name in vain. And this one's pretty straightforward. I think it's so interesting. You know, it's quite common that you see a group of men sitting together and they'll you know, drinking beer or doing whatever they're doing, and they start talking about their wives, and they're like, roll their eyes. Oh, woman, you know, what are we gonna do? It's our, you know, my wife. And unfortunately, women do the same. We laugh about the men. Oh, you know, it's
Guys do. I didn't know.
Roll their eyes, talk about the men, and this is do not say God's name in vain. Essentially, don't bash your spouse in vain. And even just in a general way, not even specifically talking about your spouse, but for women to sit and roll their eyes and bash men and men to bash women. I feel like it's the same thing right now. You know, a lot of people were talking about Corona, and they're saying like, you know, I'm watching the news and I just feel so flooded with toxicity and anxiety, and every day there's something else, and so hard to stay present when I'm hearing all these things. And I'm like, what if you don't listen to the news? Is that like even an option? You know, it's like we don't I mean, it's hard not to, but it literally affects our mindset, our joy, our inner peace. Like we could make a decision to step away. Like we are the guards to our own inner worlds, to our own inner experience. No one else is gonna stop us and say, don't eat that, it's bad for you, or like, don't watch that, it's gonna cause you anxiety. It's the same thing, the way we speak about our spouse, again, even in a general way, even when we just like bash men or bash women, it puts a downer on our heart and on our emotions, and it just creates more negativity and more toxicity. And it's so important, even when it's hard, even when we feel compelled to, it's like, yeah, in a moment it feels good, but at the end of the day, we are the ones who come back and we're living with our spouse. And what we want positivity, we want connection, we want love, and we're hurting ourselves when we communicate that way. And so
You could even do
really,
that.
huh?
You could even go to the extreme and say positive things. Like Vic just said, he always is bragging about me.
I mean,
And, yeah.
she beats me on the golf course every single time we play.
And
We
we
play a
all,
lot.
it's really take it a step further and say positive things about your husband or your wife.
Yes.
Exactly. And actually, that is one of the commandments at the end, and we're gonna get there.
Sorry.
But no, you guys could give this course. You're so special, really, so wise. I love it, and it's so true about exactly. You have something you want to say something positive, because you know what? There's just as many positive things as negative things, if not more. It's just all a matter of perspective. For us, we could wake up and we could say all the things that we're dreading that day, or all things that we hate about our lives, and we have just as many things that we have to be grateful for. And it's the same thing with our spouse. So I love that. Yeah, share positive things. And I just want to say that there is a time and space to talk about sharing openly about your spouse, and that is to a safe person who's like a mentor, a spiritual leader, someone you respect, and for the sake of growth, and for the sake of, really being vulnerable and open to, this is what's coming up for me, this is what I'm experiencing, and if you need to be open for the sake of growth. But literally to just sit and gossip you're the one who it's hurting you the most.
I don't want to talk too much, but I do want to say, I remember very few things that my mom spoke about, because she's been gone for 65 years. But one thing she said is, you can tell people a million wonderful things about your children, but if you say one bad thing, that's the thing they'll remember.
Exactly. It's very true.
Or you can compliment without complimenting. Or just told me that I annoy him.
If you chose to change in Mordecai.
No. And he should follow that up with, and I love your annoyance.
Exactly.
All righty.
Let's do number
I always thought that Jewish women didn't quell about their children because of lest they should bring a Kana Hara. And also that the whole purpose of insulting or bringing out some bad points was so as not to welcome the evil eye.
So that's so, most of that is so old school, old generation, and it's a very limited perspective that a lot of us grew up with. It's like, don't give too many compliments. Don't see that person too much. Don't make them feel too good, because then they're gonna have ego, or then they're gonna be an Ein Hara. It's all about the perspective and how you do it. You know, to walk around to bragging, oh, my child's so beautiful, they're so smart, they're so this, they're that. Anyways, we try not to brag. It's not a Jewish way anyways, even though, I mean, there's the Jewish jokes, right? My son's a lawyer and a doctor, and you know, and the Jewish mama is so proud of her kids, but
He just got busted for selling a whole bunch of fake stock on the market.
I missed that.
I didn't
They're selling because of
offer.
legal stuff, but it's on the market.
Right.
I
But anyways, so there was this, like, don't tell your children what they think of what you think about them, and you know, don't say anything positive. And unfortunately, it not necessarily brought to such great. Now we're the children of that, and we're all like, who am I? What am I good for? You know, it's like, see me, give me attention, I'm worthless, you know, because it was like, God forbid to see your soul, God forbid to build you up and say you're so wonderful and you're so special, you know. So we don't need the empty compliments, we don't need the bragging, but we need to be seen, and we need to be nourished, and we need to be nourished on a soul level. And that goes
important. It's extremely important.
Extremely important.
Yeah, but one of the other things that I live by is it's not what someone says or does, it's how they make you feel.
Exactly.
And it's really important to make people feel good, and especially your kids. And it's okay, being Jewish, to say something positive about your kids. All you do is go poo, poo, poo afterwards.
Knock on wood.
Right, it's okay.
Yeah, so I actually, I was sharing this with someone recently, that our soul it's like a seed. And just like a seed, when it gets planted, you know, you could plant it, but if you don't water it and you don't give it enough sunlight, it won't grow. It will just stay. And our soul is there, and our soul is infinite. I mean, it's God literally inside of us, and it has infinite power, infinite wisdom, and it has something so deep and profound to bring to the world. Each of us have something really profound to bring to the world. But the only way our soul can really reach its potential and come out is like a seed, if it's watered. And what does it mean to water? It means to be nourished from someone else's soul. It doesn't mean empty words. Wow, you're such an artist. You're so brilliant. You're so awesome. Like, that's cheap, and that's not going to get anywhere. It's like really seeing, if you really love someone, you want them to reach their potential. You want them to grow and nourish and like come out of being a seedling and grow into a full plant, into a tree, to be able to make an impact in the world. So that's like literally looking at them and talking from your soul to their soul. It's like, you know, that was so incredible how you push yourself to do that. And even though that was so hard, like, you were so brave, you were so courageous, you did that. And, you know, I saw you and I noticed you, and and like really thinking about these nourishing, positive, impactful words that you see their heart, you see their soul. You're not just giving cheap words.
I hope I'm not saying too much, but I've learned that it's important not to say you are so such and such, but that was so such and such what you do, because the person gets stuck in your definition of them. And sometimes that's very, very heavy, because if you say to someone, oh, you're so smart, then they are afraid to make a mistake. But if you say that was a smart thing you did, then they want to do more smart things.
Right. And also to focus
Vic,
on.
you married a smart woman.
To focus on the emotions of someone. Like, for our children and for our spouse also, like, you know, you were very brave to do that, you know, or just the like encourage and bring out, like seeing the emotions that they're going through and really bringing that out and noticing that, it really encourages more positivity. Okay, so we're gonna
move on to the
I guess
fourth
we
one.
might do this over 2 times because I guess we like to talk a lot. I don't know. I didn't know that it would take 2 classes, but.
So the fourth commandment is you should keep the Shabbat holy. So Shabbat, as we know, is a time to rest and a time to integrate and reflect and to be. You know, you're taking the 6 days of the week and you come to Shabbat and it's all of a sudden this time to just, you know, it's known to be a feminine quality. And what is unique about the women over the men? Men tend to be doing. Women tend to be integrating, present, relaxed.
We wish. We try.
In the ideal state.
Well, it's a feminine quality. Not all of us women are living to that potential, but yeah.
And Shabbat is this opportunity to really stop from the craziness of the week and just be. You know, we put away our cell phones. We put away. We don't go to work, or ideally we're not going to work, and we're just being. This same concept really applies in our marriage, is to have a Shabbat within our marriage. When people have younger kids, it's much harder to take that break because you're spending your days getting the kids off to school. Nowadays, you're buying a mask, you're finding the right mask for your kid, trying to get them on Zoom school and trying to make it all work. You don't have the time, and plus you're trying to work, and your kids are coming in, and you don't have the break. But if you and your wife, you set a Shabbat within your relationship, you suddenly have that time, both Shabbat once a week and Shabbat every day, taking a few minutes, putting away your cell phone. There's an organization, I think it's called Reboot, that they gave out these little Shabbat sleeping bags. That it's like a tiny little bag that you put your cell phone in and you put it aside, for Shabbat. And it's literally that same concept, is that every day, you take a few minutes, no cell phone there, just being being one with your spouse. Go for a walk, go for something, and once a week, go on a date night. Once every few months, go on a vacation. Just you and your spouse, away from the hustle and bustle of life. Vic and Eileen, you guys are retired, but retirees doesn't mean you can't take a Shabbat. It's sometimes your work is golf, and taking a break from the golf and just to look at each other, maybe sit down in the bar and have a beer or something. But to connect and to be one with each other. This is what the Shabbat is all about. Is Shabbat in the traditional Shabbat is time with God, time alone, and Shabbat in our marriage is time with each other, time with our spouse, and time to integrate. What have we accomplished? Look at who we are. Every so often, we're sending Rachel off to high school, and so she's going into 9th grade. And I was thinking about it recently. It's like, wow, our child is no longer a baby. She's now a 9th grader. And what have we accomplished together? We've raised her. Yes, we've had our challenges as every parent does. But look at, she's a healthy girl. She's a mature girl. She's somebody to be proud of. But if you don't take that time to stop, you don't see your children. And the same thing with your spouse is, if you don't take that time to stop, you don't see each other for who who each other truly is. And taking a little Shabbat every day, every week, every month, and every year is a very healthy and growing opportunity, growing thing.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that the hour is up, but I want to say that.
Should we continue from 5?
Well, yeah. What I want to say to add to that, this concept of being, something that really helped me personally, because it's one thing you could say, okay, we're taking a Shabbat, right? We're going on a date, or we're just gonna take time, put away our phones. But then it's possible even then, it's like, okay, well, what are we doing with this time? Like, okay, fine, we're putting away our phones and we're not gonna talk about work and we're not gonna talk about our kids and we're just gonna like be together. But then it's like, what do we do? And I think that it's really important. The whole concept of Shabbat is not only just a day not to work. It's a day to learn how to just be. It's not enough to just say, I'm not gonna work today, but I'm gonna go crazy with not working. It's like, really, it's like once a week, I'm gonna practice being present, practice just being okay with not knowing what's next.
Sorry.
Not knowing what's being next, and just being with myself and being with my family, and no expectations, no guilt, no rules. And I think this, when we say like take time Shabbat to be with your spouse, that's what it means. It's not like try to get out of the expectations, or like, oh, we're going on a date, so it has to be like this, and I have to feel like this, and we have to be in this kind of mood, and we have to only talk about this and this and that, you know. Being with each other is just like let go of any expectations, and it doesn't matter how you expected it to be, or you think it should feel this way, or he should talk this way, or he should be able to read your mind and, you know, say the perfect words. Like that's not spending Shabbat together. That's, once again, rules, regulations, guilt, expectations. So I want to just emphasize that, like when we're saying Shabbat, it's just like I'm being with your heart, and I'm showing up with my heart, and there's no rules, and we're just accepting each other where we're at.
It's said that part of what we do in the practice of our religion is to bring the Shabbat into the rest of the week.
Exactly.
So if we're practicing to give each other a vacation from each other on one day, a Sabbath of our relationship, then what's to say we shouldn't bring that into the other days of the week?
Exactly. That's beautiful. And that's exactly it. It's, you know, practicing Shabbat once a week helps us. Ideally, we should have Shabbat all week, where we learn how to just be in a state of being and going with the flow and being really present. So it's once a week to help us do it for the rest of the week. So exactly, like ideally, you know, maybe starting with once a week, being with your spouse, even for 10 minutes in the state of no rules. I'm just with your heart, and I'm showing up with my heart, and we're being authentic with each other. And then hopefully that can stretch, and ideally you can really live authentically and just, I love you for who you are, for your heart. It's not how you make me feel and how perfect you are or imperfect, or, you know, we're just, I love you, period. So thank you for sharing that, because that's really beautiful. Time is up. We still have 6 more. So I guess we will continue next Tuesday.
Wednesday.
Wednesday?
I think it's the 16th, because we have we have a different event on Tuesday.
Okay, I guess we have a different event on Tuesday. So Wednesday evening, we'll send out the information. Before we end off, does anyone want to add or share or ask or reflect?
I have one quick comment. I always thought of the 10 Commandments as kind of being abstract. And now speaking of it in this way, it's so much, it's like it's in your home. It's part of, and it's another way to elevate by using this, because you said in the beginning that the 10 Commandments was a marriage contract between us and God. And then that is mirrored in our relationship with our spouse. So those two things have to like coincide and coexist together. So I think it's just another beautiful way to find like a deeper understanding, a deeper respect, and a greater elevation of each other. So I'm really looking forward to hearing the remaining 6, I should say. But I just had never thought of it on this in this dimension. So it's very fascinating. So thank you.
So glad. Thank you for that feedback. It's always good to know. Thank you.
So next week, Tuesday.
I want to hear it. Yeah, you wanted to say something?
You said Wednesday. You said you're busy Tuesday.
Yeah, so Tuesday, so when we initially scheduled it, we did it for 2 Tuesdays, and then we accidentally scheduled another event on Tuesday for next week. So next week, Tuesday, we have Dorit Jahasi. She's a Yemeni Yemeni woman. She's doing a pre-Rosh Hashanah, conversation and cooking demonstration on conversation about the Yemenite Jews and cooking traditional Yemenite Jewish dishes. And then on Wednesday, we're going to continue the class at 8 o'clock. And the event on Tuesday is at 6:30.
Unless we do it Thursday then.
It's up to you.
Okay. Does anyone else have any other reflection thoughts?
Yeah, I'd like to hear more from the gentleman's side of the stories next time.
Ooh.
Guys, no pressure.
I could tell you how the Ten Commandments came to be. I don't know if you want to hear. Take about
What's that?
Basically, there were 4 people talking, and the Italian fellow says, what about the Ten Commandments? He says, thou shalt not steal. He says, no, I don't want any of those. He says, the Frenchman was talking about the Ten Commandments. Well, what are they? He says, well, you cannot commit adultery. He says, no, none of that. And it went on with another one. I forget what it was. And finally, they said to the Jewish fellow, and the Jewish fellow says, well, how much are they? They're free. He says, I'll take 10. And that's how the Ten Commandments came to be.
That's great.
So there's the Mel Brooks version where Moses comes down with 3 tablets.
Yeah.
And then and he drops one. So he's got 10.
We get to make up the other 5 or the other whatever.
All righty.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. And we'll see you all next week, Tuesday and Wednesday, or Wednesday. But
Thank
see you later.
Very nice.
Be well. Nice to see you all.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Hey, nice to meet everybody.
Very nice.
Nice to see everyone.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Oh, and Hamid, don't forget to send me the link.
Oh, yes.
tomorrow.
I'm going to do it right now. Thanks for reminding me.
Actually, if you could send, I don't know, would it be for email? Because then, what do? I just copy it into my email?
I'll email it to you.
Okay. I'll try to make it. Thank you.
Bye, guys.